Hello, picking up from where we stopped yesterday, we are going to I'll just do a quick run through of everything we did yesterday and then we can continue. So yesterday we had some network issues and we were not able to continue. So hoping that this would be able to cover up for all the lessons that we missed yesterday. So I'll try my best to see how we can combine everything together and finish it. Maybe I'll just break this into two sections so that it doesn't feel too long and too lengthy, because you might eventually get boring watching them because it's too long. So I'll try to break it down so it's not so long. So from yesterday we already added the auth page, the manage page, the watch page. So the auth page is where we handle authentication, like login and sign up. The manage page is where you manage your videos, like you create, you upload, you delete. The watch page is where you watch the videos, right? And then we also have JavaScript page for each of them. We have auth.js, we have main.js, we have manage.js, we also have watch.js. Then on our CSS, we already defined the CSS where we imported Tailwind and we added Roboto. For the Roboto, we also imported that to our main.html. And another thing we also did was we added nav bars. We added certain element already. We added the header and we also added the nav bar where we have the video app as the icon. We added the form with the inputs, and then we also added this side nav element, which is the alt manage username. And then we added this card. There was a single card we added in the body. We're trying to work on what it's going to look like so that we can achieve this same design, right? The same pattern. So we added that already. So we'll just continue from where we stopped right away. So let's continue, let's jump right in. So what we are going to do now is that we're going to try to get this exact design, this exact specification. So looking at what we have here now, this text is quite too big. So instead of 2XL, let's take it down to LG, and then instead of LG, let's take it down to MD. And yes, this is much more closer. Another thing we also want to do here is that, so we have the name, we have, so this text is in gray color, not white. So this should be text gray 200. This should also be the same color as well, right? We should also apply the same color here. And if we click this, it's not changing. Why it's not changing? Why is it not changing? Let's see, text gray. Let's do, is it too subtle that it's not showing? Okay, yes. Okay, so I think 200 is too light. That's the reason why it was not showing. So let's do 500. Okay, yeah, so let's apply it directly on the text, not on the div. So we are going to say 500 and 500, and this is already applied. So we need to give some spacing between this text. So let's do PL3 so it's spaced out. And there's a dot here. So for the dots we can use I think this used to be dots. Yes, dots. I'm correct. So that's, oh no, that's at the top. I want something at the center. Dots. Let's see. No, why is it at the top? I want it down. Let's try something. Let's say flex item center. Okay, it's not coming down. I don't know why it's not coming down. You know what, let's try something. Let's make this a span element so we can control the orientation. So let's say margin top of 2, and then it brings it down. I think that's too much. Okay, that's more in the center. And now let's give it a text of gray 500 as well. and yes, perfect. So this is perfect now. Yes, so we also give this PL of 2, padding left of 2, and then this should be padding left of 1 instead, so it's closer to the dots. Yes, so this is nice. Now this is exactly what we want. I feel like this 500 is actually too much. Let's try 400 and see. Let's try 300. Too close. Let's say 800. Well, we cannot exactly get the exact color. That's something else we also need to look at. So I think let's just stick with 500, because we're not working with like the exact design specification, so we may not exactly get the exact color. Another thing we also want to do is that we want to reduce this text size. This should be text SM, not MD, because the sizes are actually smaller. Let's also reduce this as well, so this should be text sm. Yes, this now makes a lot of sense. Now another thing we also want to do is that we want to add this 3 dot icon here. So we're going to go back to lucid icons. So we're using lucid icons for that. So we're going to just pick an svg with 3 dots that gives us what we want. Why is this taking so long? Why is it taking so long? Well, while we are waiting for it, we can just go on with the styling. So another thing we also want to do, because this is now going to be a class of grid, so we want this to, let's see something. Let's see how wide this card is. Okay, so this card is actually very wide, but we're not taking the full width. So for us to take the full width, we need to specify that we want it to take the full width for the image here, and then we also need to give this a class to say take the full width. Yes, so this is now taking the full width. And if you look at what we have here, the images are rounded, and we want this to have rounded of LG, so it's like similar. So this is not so obvious. Let's make it 3XL so that it's very, very obvious. Yes, this is perfectly obvious. Now we can now take away the BG, and perfect. And so now another thing we also want, this is like clustered to the side, so we want to have some spacing. So we are going to say let's say gap 4 around, like in between the elements, and then let's say px of 4. Instead of just px of 4, let's say p padding of 4, so on all sides it's padded. This is much better. Yes, this is much better, so we can go with this. Now this feels too close, like it's too close to the top, so instead of doing this, let's give this margin top of 6 so that it comes down. I think 6 is now too much. Let's do 4. Yes, this is a lot more better. This image looks cut out, so what we can do is that we can let's take away this overflow clip. I think this is what is cutting the image. That's not what is cutting the image. Let's try to visualize. So this is what I do when I'm trying to visualize my div. I just give it a background color to understand what is happening. So it's actually cut out on the top and on the bottom. Why is it being cut out? Let's use width of full here, and then let's also try height of full and see what happens. So let's also give this a bg of blue 500 to visualize. Okay, so I think how about we say height of full. Yes, so perfect. Now you can notice that the that edges that is being cut out is gone and is now perfectly rounded. Yes, so we fix this issue. Yep, and so we are good to go. So now we can now duplicate our card. So we can duplicate our card, but instead of just duplicating the card, we would now use JavaScript to handle the duplication, right? Because we just need one card and then multiple videos from our JavaScript, and then everything gets duplicated. So this is like perfect. Lucy is still loading. I don't know why it's still loading. This is taking okay, yeah, so it has loaded. So 3 dots info. Let's do more. Yes, so ellipse. Okay, so let's copy the SVG. So now let's take it back to just one single so we are going to do something. So this flex is going to, so we're going to put this in a div. I'm going to put this in a div, and then we're going to cut out everything from here and bring it inside of here. Yes, and then we are going to have another div here again where this SVG is going to live, and then we are going to come to the top of this div, and then we are going to make this okay, no, this div is meant to cover this other div. Yes, it's meant to cover this other div, and then we can come here. So if we check this now, we should see that we now have okay, so let's now give this flex of justify between, and then item starts. So justify between and item starts. So we now need to adjust this. So to adjust this, we are going to give this a class of flex so that it flexes also, and then we're going to say flex of take 0.8, so like take the full width again, and everything is back to normal. Like this is what we expect it to be, and then we are good to go now. So when we duplicate this, so let's see, is this the exact color? Yes, perfect, it is. So when we duplicate this now, well, this is not like the best looking UI we can have, but like what the goal is not to have a perfect UI. The goal is just to play around with, you know, so the gap here feels too small. Okay, I think it's perfect. Actually, I think this works. So I think with this we can now move to something else. So now the next thing we want to look at is our firebase integration, right? Because at this point we want to start talking about authentication. So how can we add authentication to the system? So we're going to start working with authentication first. So we would create a firebase project to work with, to start with. So to create a firebase project, head on to firebase and then go to your console. So when you go to your console, we are going to create a firebase project to get started. So let's create a new firebase project. Let's call this a video app, and then I accept. It's just going to create a video app for us, and then we can continue. You can just choose any location. For now I'm just going to leave it at the United States. I accept Google Analytics term, and then you can create project. It's going to take a while to create the project, and then so let's just hold on a little. Shouldn't take so long. Okay, so now our project is ready. We can now continue, and this is the project. So the project gives us, so we have like Google Gemini. We can ask questions. I mean, you can always maximize Google Gemini here, but we're not even going to be using Google Gemini here. We're going to be using the Firebase docs. So this is where we are going to do all of our learning, because the Firebase docs has everything we need. You just come down to build, and these are some of the features we're going to be using: authentication, storage, and Firestore. These are the three main features we are going to use eventually, and then we're also going to use hosting. So we're going to learn how to work with them. So but we're starting out with authentication, so let's just go to authentication first. Now before we proceed, let's do a run through of the Firebase setup. What does it look like? Firebase is a backend as a service you know, feature, or should I call it service, backend as a service that you can use to power your application. So you really do not need a backend developer when you're trying to build systems like this. With Firebase, you can create data and store them on a database. You can fetch them, you can update them, you can delete them. Basically, you can perform CRUD operations using what we call the Firestore database. You can do app hosting, so you can host your applications. You can do authentication. So with the authentication, there are certain features it comes with, like so for each of them that you want to use, we are going to like have to set it up. So since we're starting with authentication, we're going to set up authentication. There's email and password, there's Google, there's Facebook, there's Google Play, there's Game Center, Apple, GitHub. You can just use any of these. You can use phone number, and you can also use anonymous. So for this, we are going to be using let's just stick with email and password. We're going to enable it, and then email link to, in case of like, okay, no, let's just use email and password for now. So we keep things simple. So you can also add multiple providers. So but for now, since we're using email and password, like, this is good to go. Then when you come to the users tab, you can see all the users that are already registered on your project, right? So but this is the sign-in method. You can also create templates, and like so what happens when a user signs up on your platform? You want to send them email. When user signs up using an email address and password, you can send them a confirmation email to verify their registered email address. You can do this, and you know, there's so much that it comes with, but we're not going to be touching all of this because we don't have so much time. Maybe like in subsequent videos and in subsequent times, we can go deeper into how Firebase works and understand all of this. Also, there's the usage part where you can see like how many people are logging into your system, how many monthly users, so daily, monthly. You can also check SMS, because you can also send SMS as well, like to verify users, maybe for phone number. Then you have settings where you can set account linking, and a lot of other stuff that you can also do as well. So for now, let's start with authentication. So but the first thing we need to do, right, let's go back to our projects. The first thing we need to do is to create what I call a Firebase config. So creating a Firebase config, this is where we are going to configure our project. So on our Firebase, you go back to Firebase, and then you see the settings icon here. We'll click on it. We'll click on project settings. So you come down here, and then we have to set up this application. So we click web. So you have to register your application. So this is going to be video app. We're going to call this a video app. Also set up Firebase hosting, because eventually we are going to host this application as well. So register app. Now we're going to register the app, and then we're going to get a configuration for this application. Now it's asking me to install Firebase. I already have Firebase installed on my system, so I don't have to install Firebase. But if you don't have Firebase installed in your system, you have to install Firebase, because this is what gives you access to you know, configure and run Firebase on your system. So there's a Firebase CLI that you can run directly from your terminal and manage your project, like do stuff like maybe hosting and a host of other things. Also, if you want to run Firebase on your project, you're also going to need you know, like the Firebase as well. So it's very important you install it. So we are just going to copy this code. We're just going to copy this code and paste it here right now. So import functions you need from the Firebase, from the SDKs you need. So the Firebase has SDKs, right? Now add SDKs for Firebase product that you want to use. So we are going to be using the like I said, we're going to be using the docs to get everything we need. So now this is what we mean by the config. So this is our API key, this is our domain, this is our project ID, this is our storage bucket, this is our messaging sender ID, and everything basically. So this application has been configured for us. We can now take out all of these comments. We don't need them anymore. We can also take this out. We don't need it anymore, and we can leave this initialize Firebase, because of course this is where we are initializing our application. So basically our application is completely set up, and then we can just click next, then you also install firebase CLI. So this is where, okay, so this is the actual tool you need to like work with the CLI. You don't need, okay, yes, I get this now. So this is what you need for the firebase CLI. So for the firebase SDK, we still need to install this specifically for this project. I missed that. So installing firebase is specifically for this project, not for the CLI. The one for CLI is where you install the firebase CLI. This is something I already have. Notice this is global, so npm install -g. What this means is that it's going to live globally on your system, and then next, and then we are going to deploy to firebase hosting. So but for now, we are not deploying yet now, so let's just ignore that. And while the firebase is installing, let's go back to the firebase authentication. So now we want to learn how authentication works. So we would not be going through everything here, because I mean, if we're going through everything, it's going to take us a lot of time. But what we can just do is we just want to go straight to web. Right now, using firebase auths, firebase can like give you pre-built UI, so where you can, firebase UI is a library built on top of firebase authentication SDK that provides drop-in UI flows for use in your app. Firebase UI provides the following benefits: multiple providers, you can sign in flows for email, password, email link, phone authentication, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and GitHub sign in. So it's like firebase UI is not compatible with the modular API, the namespace API specifically, the app compat, and the auth compat packages permits the use of firebase UI. So we're not going to be using the firebase UI because at the moment we're using namespace API. So what the namespace API is, just like they're just like different ways to use firebase, right? It's like a modular approach to use firebase where you import files without require. It's like you use the direct import. So what we are just going to do is let's just go straight to password authentication. So for password authentication, we want to use so this is the modular API, this is the namespace API, right? So we want to use modular API. So for the modular API, what we need is we need to like get this package, right? So we need to call this, and then this is get auth, right? So we are going to so yes, this is already set up for us. We don't even need to do any more special call. So you can create a password based account. This is to like create a new user account, and this is to sign in a user with email address and password. And like this is like the method, right, that we just need to call, and the user is completely signed up. So let's start with create a password based account. So we will not be importing this here, rather let's import. So now here we're going to export app so that we can easily use this anywhere in our application. So let's go to auth.js, and then we're going to use this in auth.js. Now we're going to copy this, right? Let's just copy everything here and use it in auth.js. So what this offers to us is that we have auths, and so this is like the auth object. Now get auths coming from firebase, and then there's a method attached to it, right, which is create user with email and password, and then we pass in the auth object. This auth object is what carries our apps, should I call it now our app like DNA. Think about it, because we already set up this project in firebase config, right? So for every of the firebase features we're going to be using, for storage, for Firestore, we are going to have something like this. We're going to have like the object that contains our app DNA. If we look, maybe if we try to like open this, maybe the get auth has to do with, let's see if there's an explanation for it here. So getting started, let's go back to get started so that you can understand it. So okay, yes, so we have to actually initialize this before we even call it, right? So we need to do the get auth. Yes, so we have to do some initialization here. So we need to do get auth, and then we have to initialize it using app. Yes, this is actually correct, right? And then we can now export app. So what this means is that Firebase has an auth object which is tied to the get auth, but before we can initialize it and use it in our application so that it is like specific to our application, we need to, this initialization we did here using our Firebase config, we need to pass it to Firebase auth object, and then we have this auth, and then we can export this. So now for our auth.js, we don't need this get auth anymore, and we don't need this call anymore. We just need to import auth from, we just need to import auth, we need to import auth from Firebase config, right? And automatically this gives us access to this auth that we defined here in our Firebase config. So this is basically how we are going to be using all of the Firebase like object. So when we call this create user with email and password, and we pass in this auth, it has our app ID, it has like our app signature, and then we're going to pass in the email and the password, right? So now what we are going to do here is that we're going to create a function here, and we're going to export this. Oh no, let's not even export this. So let's just call this a function, and then we're going to say this is, let's use arrow functions const create account. So let's say create account equal to so we're going to do this. So this already has try catch, like dot then and dot catch, so we don't need to like add an async here. It's not necessary anymore, but we can choose to like switch it up. So basically that's how we are going to be working with every of the Firebase auths, right? So we first of all initialize it using our app DNA, and then we can continue. So let's go back to the password authentication flow. So here now we are told to create a new user account with the password. Complete the following steps in your app sign up page. When a new user signs up using your app sign up form, complete any new account validation step that your app requires. So we are supposed to perform the validation on our end, such as verifying that the user's account password was correctly typed and meets your complexity requirements. So different applications have different complexity requirements, right? So you may say, okay, you don't want users to stress, and maybe you can just say, okay, just type in any 6 details or any 4 password depending on what you want, right? So and then you can create a new account. So next thing we're going to do, we already have the create account, and then this create account is going to take in email, and it's also going to take in password, right? So this is what we are going to call when users submit the create account form. So now we need to define our create account page in auth, right? So what is this auth page going to look like? So what this auth page is going to look like is that we're going to have a form. So we're going to start with a form. We don't need an action here. We need, let's give this an ID of let's call this auth. So we are going to we're going to have the auth form. Yes, the auth form. So we're going to actually have 2 forms, right? We're going to have login, and we're going to have sign up, and we're going to switch this up with JavaScript, so based on the user's state. So here we're going to have an h1 saying login and login, then we can now have your paragraph, and then we say login and continue. So then we can have like a div, and then we can have a label, then we can say for email, so enter your email, and then we say email, and then we have an input for email, for type of email, placeholder, enter your email, and then we also have value is going to be empty. For by default it's going to be empty. We're going to have class. Let's give this border of 1, let's say border of grade 200. Let's remove the appearance of none. Let's also remove the outline of none. Let's give this rounded, let's make this rounded of LG. let's say LG. Okay, we don't need border one, border is enough. Then we're also going to define let's also define for, okay, so then this also needs an ID of email. Then let's also define for, okay, no, this is supposed to be small e, not big E, because the ID here is small. So this is also going to be small for password. Then we're going to say password. So since this is a password type, we don't need a placeholder because it's going to be password. And yes, so why did our app close up? Okay, so firebase did not install. Why did you not install? Something is wrong here. This is not installing. Okay, so let's hope this installs. So now let's go back to our app, and then we're going to link this page to the auth page. So on the home page now, we are going to, where we have auth, right? We would now call, so this will now take us to auth, sorry, pages slash auth.html, and then when we click on this, it should take us to pages slash html. So we are getting an error here now because Firebase has not been installed. So let's comment this out for now. Yet let's just comment this out. Let's just comment this out. Let's also comment this out while our Firebase is trying to install. Let's be patient a little so that Firebase can install. I don't know why this is taking so much time. But yeah, let's try to style our input. So our styling is not being applied on the input because we have not added, we need to add style.js to all of the JavaScript classes so that why, okay, no, sorry, not this, something is wrong here on our main.js. Okay, we need to import style.css. Yes, we need to. So the reason why we are importing style.css to all of our JavaScript files, so that the classes, the tailwind can get applied, is because on our index.js we are linking. So here we linked to main.js, right? And then when we link to main.js, because we already have the style.css, it called the style, and our style is living under our src, right? So the style has the tailwind and the font, so we have to import it to our JavaScript file first before it can call. So on our alt.html, we need to call alt.js. So this is still not loading. Why? Let's check our network tab to see why this is not loading. So it's loading, it's already loading the style, but why is it not being applied? Why is it not being applied? Why is it not being applied? Could it be because of the way we are importing our auth.js? Let's see. But I mean, we can all import this directly and nothing affects, because this is loaded already. Something is wrong here and I cannot exactly tell why. Something is wrong. Our Firebase is still not installing. Firebase is still not installing. Cannot tell why, but let's run a check and see again why this is not installing. Why is our password, why this is really weird. Alt.html, let's check index.html again. and see. Okay, I think I found the issue. So the problem is coming from our CSS not being linked. So the easiest way to do this is to just link directly to our CSS from the head. So we go src slash, so we say slash src, and this should solve the issue. Yes, so the issue has been solved, and our tailwind now loads, and then we now have our style CSS. So this like solves the issue already. So now let's go back to our HTML page again. So class, this should have a class of container. Let's give this a class of container, and okay, no, let's, instead of class of container, let's do max width 6xl. Let's do margin auto, so it centralizes everything. Why is it not working? Supposed to centralize this. Supposed to send. Okay, so we are applying this on the body. It's supposed to be on the div, not on the body. Yes, supposed to be on the div, not on the body. Let's apply this to the div itself. Still not applying. Something is wrong somewhere. Let's use our a default check. Okay, so it's actually applying. Yes, it's actually applying, but we need to now define flex, justify center, item center. Okay, so this is applying. Okay, yes, perfect. So this applies. Let's make this 7x, and then let's say we want width of full. So 7x is too big. Let's do 5x. I think it's still too big. Let's do 4x, and then let's give it a fixed height of 500 px. Yes, and then let's give it a margin top of 20, so it comes down from the top. And then on our form, we're going to give this a class of flex, justify center. Oh no, let's not do justify center. Let's just take away the flex. Let's leave the class yet for now. For the login, this should be text of 2xl, so it's bold. Let's give this a class text of gray 400, text of lg. No, that's too much. Let's do 200, and then let's take away this red bg now, and this does not fit much like it. Let's give this 400 and see what it looks like. Okay, this is a lot more better now. So yes, for our div, we're going to give this a class of flex, and then it's going to flex scroll, so we want both of them. Yes, perfect. Let's take away this roundedness. Let's make this outline none, not just outline none. Yes, so the outline is completely gone. Let's also give this a height of 45 px. So yes, this is, and then let's give this margin top of 10, so it's like there's a well, like it's well spaced out. Then let's give our form padding of 10, so everything is spaced out as well. Let's give this padding of 4, so it's spaced out. Okay, no, let's take away this padding. Let's just give this margin top of 2, so it like pushes this other, the input to the top, and then pl of 5, so that there's spacing in between the inputs. And what else can we do? This is not looking, let's give, I mean, this is not looking the best yet, but we are close. Let's do border, let's say border gray of 200. Let's make it a little bit rounded of MD, rounded MD. Yep, a little bit better. Let's also do the same for our password. So for password, let's give this a class margin top of 5. Let's apply all of the text we applied, all of the styling we applied here as well. Let's just copy and paste. And so for our div, this should be margin top of 5 instead of 10. And yes, so let's actually, you know what, let's give this a placeholder. I mean, even though it's password, we can still give it a placeholder. Enter your password. Yes, and then it makes sense now. So this is coming out much better. And then we can now add a button, a proper button, and then we say submit. And then so this should have a class of bg black with a opacity of 90, should have a text of white, should have a height of 45 px, and should have margin top of 10. And then beneath the button there should be another div. We can take away flex colon flex because we don't need it again. Same thing here as well. This should be a margin top of 3. Then let's take away this and let's add an anchor text and say already have an account. Then this should be okay. So this should actually be a paragraph, not an anchor tag. So the only place where the anchor tag comes in is when we want to say login. So already have an account. So this is for login. So it should be don't have an account, sign up. So so on the sign up, so now we are going to add, this should not actually go to a new page. You know what, this should not be an anchor tag, this should be a span. This should also be a span. So we are going to give this an ID of sign up switcher. Do not have an account. So let's give this width full. I think this is already been, let's say width full. So we took away the flex and the button like lost its original width. So let's give all of our borders, all of our edges rounded borders. So let's make them a little bit rounded MD. And then let's do the same here. Let's also do the same here. And then it feels a little bit, so it feels a little bit softer. So do not have an account, sign up. Sign up should be on hover. It should have a text of let's say text of blue 500. So on hover, it's not hovering. Okay, no, this is supposed to be on our class, not on ID. So on class, hover text of blue. Yes, so it should also have hover text on the line, so that it doesn't feel like hover on the line, so that it doesn't feel like it's not active. So when we click this sign up, now we're going to take our sign up switcher, and then this should be, so sign up switcher, sign up switcher, right? Sign up switcher. So we are going to go to the auth.js. So Let's see, has this installed yet? It has still not installed. Why is it not installing? What's the problem? Npm install firebase. Something seems to be wrong, but for now let's just get our sign up switcher equal to document.query selector, and then since it's an ID, we're going to get sign up switcher, and then when we click to sign up switcher, we want to, so in our auth.html we want to make, so we are going to have two forms. Let's just replicate this form down. So we'll just copy this and then replace it here, but this is going to be sign up. So what we want is, so let's see, something is wrong here. This div, why is this div not being applied? Let's see, this class is not being applied properly. Something seems to be wrong. Form, it's supposed to cover, okay, there's a height, that's why. So I think what we can do is to give it the height of feet. Okay, perfect. So now for the sign up form, this is not going to be login, this is going to be sign up. So create, so I'm going to say create an account and continue, and then so under beneath here we're going to say already have an account. This is going to be login, and then this is going to be login switcher. So we are going to go to our auth.js and also fetch login switcher as well. So I'm just going to say login switcher. So we're also going to add an event listener for login switcher. So when we call login switcher, what we want to do is that on the auth page we want to, so we're going to pick the auth form, so the login, so we're also going to call, so here now we're going to say const login form equal to document, then we're going to call login, also going to call sign up form. So we're going to say sign up, and then this is sign up, right? Let me get the exact text. Yes, sign up. So auth.js sign up, so we're going to say sign up form, and when we click on the sign up switcher, we want to say sign up form dot class list dot add hidden, right? So we're going to hide sign up form when we click on sign up switcher, and then when we click on login switcher, we are going to say login form dot class list dot add hidden. Then we're going to also say login form dot class list. Login form is not going to be hidden, instead login form. So let's look at what we already have here. This should be okay, so it's going to be block because by default it is block. So this is going to be block, and then this is also going to be sign up form, this is also going to be block. So if we come here now, so what we want is that by default, so on our auth.html, by default sign up form should be hidden, right? So if we click on sign up, it's not taking us. If we click on, so if we click on sign up switcher, okay, it should be the other way around, not like this. it should be the other way around. Sign up switcher. So when we click on sign up switcher, why is it not clicking? Something is wrong. Sign up switcher. So let's see alt.html. So on the login page, what do we have here? Sign up switcher, right? Yes, sign up switcher. So okay, let's do this. On click, let's console log what we have here, events.target. Let's see what we are calling. So console.log sign up. Cannot use import statements outside a module. Oh, okay, so cannot use import statements outside a module. So we need to make alt.js a module. That's the problem. To fix that, we need to change how we import. We need to change. So this error, what this error is telling us, cannot use import statement outside the module. What this error is telling us, oh thank god, our firebase has finally installed. So what this error is telling us basically is that we are trying to use the import statement, right? Imports, but this this is a module type of import, but we are not importing on our alt.this thing. We're not defining the type, so we have to like explicitly define the type as a type of module, and that error is automatically gone. So we have another error, found two elements with non-unique ID email. Okay, yes, so we need to also fix that non-unique ID email. So let's call this sign up email, so that we don't have clashes. And let's also call this sign up password, right? So there's also no clashes. And then on the ID here, we also attach it as sign up password, and then we do the same thing here. So for this, we can now say login password, and then we can pass in ID of login password. So our IDs are supposed to be completely unique, like no two IDs should exist on the same page. That's the idea of ID, it's completely unique. And then we have login email here. So with this now, that error is gone. And then when we click on sign up, canonical properties of null, reading class lists, sign up switcher. Okay, so let's now see what are we fetching here. So login form. Oh, so we did not add our hash when calling the login. We missed, because we're using query selector, we missed this hash. So query selector selects like regular CSS selectors, and we need to use this hash when selecting. So if you're selecting an ID, you need to pass in the hash. If you're selecting a class, you need to pass in the dot notation. It's only when you are selecting an element that you can pass the element directly. So this should no longer give us that error. So what happened? So when we click the sign up switcher, okay, so sign up form should be blocked, login form should be hidden, but login form should be hidden. Okay, so I think I've seen the issue. So we are only adding, we are not removing, right? So if you notice, right, when you come to our alt.html page on our, so by default login has a class of block and sign up has a class of hidden. So what we are doing is on the alt.js is that we added the class of block, but we did not remove the class of hidden on the sign up. So we also need to specifically say remove, right? Remove the class of hidden, right? Because that's what makes it that's what takes away the hidden and makes this actively block. Then on the login form, we want to add the class of hidden and remove the class of block, because that is the active state. So if we do this now and we click on our sign up form, you see it switches. But if we click on our sign up form now, nothing happens. So we have to also do the same inverse here. So on our sign up form we have to remove, so we add block and remove hidden. On our login form we add hidden and remove block, and this should also work. So sign up takes us to so login takes us to, so sign up takes us to sign up, login takes us to, wait, no, so login switcher, login form dot add class list. This should be block, not hidden, sorry, it should be the other way around, and this should be hidden, this should be hidden, and this should be block. Because when we click on the login, what we want to show is the login. So when we click on sign up, we go to sign up. When we click on login, we go to login. So it works properly fine, everything works properly fine now, so we can switch between both. So now the next thing we want to do is to handle our forms. So we want to be able to collect the data from each of these forms and sign up the user using the firebase method. So what we are going to do is that we just collect, so the next thing is to collect email. So we're going to say login, so login email equal to document.query selector, and then we're going to collect login. You remember we use login email for the ID, so login email, login password, login email, login password, sign up email, sign up password, sign up password, right? And then we're just going to do the same thing here, sign up email. So this should be sign up password, and then we can now add, so on the login form, so we can now say, so first of all we are working with, so now let's take this import to the top, right? And then let's uncomment it, because our firebase has been installed and we should no longer get this error that we had initially. So yes, the error is gone because our firebase has been installed, and then we can also uncomment this as well. So now we have create accounts. Let's also call login, so let's also call login, and then for the login we are going to use the so we're going to use sign a user in. So this is the method for sign in, so we just come here and then we sign a user in, right? So now sign a user in, and then the user is signed in. So that's these are like the two methods we are going to be calling now. What we are going to do is, for, like I said, we are going to call on login email to add event listener. We're also going to have sign up email to add event listener. On submit, so this is going to listen to the submit, this is also going to listen to the submit. We're going to add e, because we want to prevent the default e.prevent, so the form do not load, because we are submitting the forms and by default the forms would load, so we want to prevent the default behavior. Now we're going to go back to both forms, and then on the button we're going to give the button a type of submit. I'm going to give each of the button a type of submit, so that our form will automatically listen to the submit event from the button and trigger that event listener we just added. So what is going to happen is that on our auth.js, when we click the event listener for login, right, when we click on submit for the event listener login, we're first of all going to get the email value equal to email, so we're going to say login email dot login email dot value, right? No, can we get the value like this? Login email dot value. I don't think we can get the value directly like this. Dot, there's a better way to do this. you know what, I think we should be able to get the value directly like this. Right, to confirm, let's console log email value and see. So let's go back to our page and then let's enter email in edujoshua@gmail.com, then we submit. So our default is not actually working. Our login email is not listening to the default. Oh, sorry, we're supposed to listen to login form, not login email. Login form, we're listening to login email. So on login form, so now let's go again and see. Okay, yeah, so we are getting it. So this is actually how to get the value. So we get the login email and then we also get the password email, and then we say equal to password email dot value as well. So now we need to validate inputs. So to validate the input, we say if email value equal to empty. So what we are going to do is that we are going to add an error. We're going to add an error div at the top dot id, and then the error div is going to the id is going to be error. So here we're just going to display the error here. Now if the email value is empty, we are going to say, so here let's get the, so this should be okay, this should be sign up error. Then let's also define for login error, and then let's give this border red 500. Then let's give this padding of 4. Let's also do the same. Let's do the same here. So this is going to so this is going to, yes. So now let's go back here and then let's fetch the error div. So we're going to say login error, then we're going to say document.query selector, we're going to say login error. We're also going to do the same thing for sign up error, and then we're going to say sign up error. So let's start with login error. So if the email value is equal to empty, we are going to document dot create elements. The element we want to create is a p value, and then we're going to say email cannot be empty, and then we add, let's do this, and then we're going to say login error dot append child, and then we are going to add const error text equal to, so we're going to append the child here. So if we do this, cannot access password email before auth, cannot access password email auth 39. Let's see, auth 39. Cannot access or password email. Why don't we have, okay, this is login password, not password email. We used the wrong value, sorry about that. Yes. So this is password, this should be password value. Yes. So let's see now. So if we submit, we still get an error. Cannot read properties of null, reading append child. So the login error is most likely not selecting. Let's see what we have on our login error. Div, okay, this is sign up error. This should be login error, not Yes, so if we click on submit, it's still not fetching. Why? Let's console log login error and see what we have. Null. This is returning null. Why is it returning null? Div. Oh, my bad. Yes, so I did some mistake here. This is class. Okay, this is class, and then this is also supposed to be class, not so class. And yes, so now we need to give this a class of hidden so it doesn't show initially. We also need to do the same thing here as well. We need to give it a class of hidden, but on submit now, so when we submit and there's an error, we need to, so here now you see why are we still getting null? I still getting null. Why? Login error. Okay, yes, so we now get login error now. So we need to now explicitly in our auth.js, we need to now so I think let's also remove that white space from sign up. Okay, yes, so it's not there anymore. So we need to explicitly define that, okay, login error dot class list dot add. We need to now add block, and then we need to remove no, instead of adding, let's just remove, right? Let's just remove hidden, and I think that solves it. So if there is an empty value, append child on parameter, one is not type of node, let's do append instead. Yes, so email cannot be empty. So let's give this some proper styling more. So on the auth, we can now say this should have my of 4, and then yeah, so let's just stick with it like so. Email cannot be empty. So next, if we also have so email cannot be empty, let's also give our text. Let's also give our text dot class list, and then let's say text red 500. Class list is not a function. Okay, we cannot add class list directly like this. So let's just come here and say error text dot class list. Okay, no, we should we're supposed to say class list dot add. Okay, cannot read properties of undefined, reading add. Okay, so it's still not working directly. So let's just do this. Let's just say error text dot class list dot add text red 500, and then when we add this class list dot add, why is it saying cannot read property? What are we doing? Let me see, console log error text. This should work. Yes, error text should work. Cannot property of undefined, reading add class list. Why is it not adding? Oh, okay, we're trying to, so I see the problem. We attached it to value. This should be inner HTML. I think this should be inner HTML, not, let's see, I'm coming, hold on. So error text email cannot be, so let's see, text content email, no, something is wrong here. The error text itself is meant to, it's supposed to give us the full, is meant to, so this is giving us null because this is just a text value. You know what, let's do this instead, right? Let's say error text So this is a paragraph, right? Error text dot text content equal to, let's now attach this here, and then let's come here and clear this up. Email cannot be empty, and then let's see the difference. Yes, so the problem is we're trying to attach the style on the text value, not the HTML element itself. So now if we have an empty email, we can attach this. We can also check else. If no, let's not do else, let's just run another if again. We can say if email value is what other check do we want to add? We can say let's just do basic check for now. If password value is equal to empty, right, we can just say, we can do the same thing that we have here. So if either of them are empty, we can say password cannot be empty. So let's say we have email here and we try to enter it. You also see password cannot be empty, so you have to enter a password. Then if we also have password, that means we are good to go. So submit, so get login user. So login user. So at this point now we can now call login. We can now call the login method that we have here, right? This login, we can now call this login method and pass in email value and password value, and let's console log whatever error we might be getting here and see, because definitely we're going to get an error considering the fact that there's no user signed in at the moment. So let's just say we want to create a password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then we try to submit. Sign in with password is not defined. Sign in with password and email is not defined. We did not import it, so now we've imported it. Let's continue. So we add this again, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then we submit, and then we get an error, right? Firebase invalid auth or credentials. So when this is loading, we also want to show a loading state. So what we are going to do to show a loading state is that we are going to, so let's come back here. So when we call on login, so we are also going to fetch the buttons, right? We're also going to fetch the button. So we are going to say sign so login button equal to document.query selector. This should be login button, and this should be sign up button. So let's say sign up button, login button. Let's go to our auth.js and then let's specify the buttons. So let's give it ID of login button, and then let's come down here and give it the button type of sign up button. So we come back here, and then on our login button, when we are logging in, so at this point where we log in the user, we can now say login button dot text content equal to loading. This should be loading, so we can now do loading here, and then at this point if we can now say dot catch, and then we can do dot finally. There's a dot finally method that we also have, and then we can just turn this back to submit like it was originally, right? And does this work? Okay, I don't think this works on and dot then and dot catch. So let's just apply it here, and then let's also apply it here as well. So let's go again, and then if we get any error again, introduction at 10. So if we do this, so you see now we get loading, right? So that loading state showed. So now another thing we also want to do is that we want to show this error directly here. So you see firebase. So now when we get error like this, one of the things that we can do is that we can map all the firebase error that we have. So we are going to, on the firebase config, we are going to have what I call a method to, so this is going to be exported. So we're going to call this map errors, and then we're going to get error, and then we're going to get something that will return. So we're going to do a switch error. Let's just call this error, right? So we're going to say if the case is, so if this is the error, right, we want to return invalid credentials. Please check, or let's just say invalid credentials, right? Let's just say invalid credentials. This should be here. Yes, this should be here. And then we want to break. So this is what we have for now. When we add, let's add a default. So we can just add a default and say we can just say return something went wrong. And so yes, unreachable code. This is unreachable. Why is it unreachable? Okay, yeah, it's unreachable because we don't have another case. So for now, let's just work with this. So we are going to export map errors, and we're going to come to our auth.js and our error message. So so to get the error message, we would map the error, and to get the right error message, and then we would call login error dot. So you know what, now another thing we're also going to do is this login error method, right? We're going to define, just to make it reusable, we are going to define an error method, right? So we're going to call this show error. We're going to call this show error, and then the show error would now be the text, right, that we pass in here. Show error would be the text. So this is automatically reusable. So this is going to be for, so we're going to call this show login error. So now where we validated the inputs, right, so instead of doing this, we will just say, we will just call show error, and then we pass in email cannot be empty, and we do the same thing here, and then we say password cannot be empty, and then we can take this out completely and take this out completely. So what this helps us is that it takes away like all the unnecessary line of code that we would be writing every time, and then we pass this in here. So to test this now, if we have uncut syntax duplicates, uncut syntax duplicate export of map errors. Okay, so we have on our firebase config map errors. Okay, yes, so we have, okay, my bad. So we exported map errors twice. So if we submit now, you see email cannot be empty, password cannot be empty. So if we do this and then we enter password and then we try, oh, so now it's loading. Okay, so we also need to catch this state so that so on our auth.js form, because our loading button now loads all the time, so we are going to say, we have to define a value, right? We have to define a value, and so okay, so what we are going to do here is we have to return, so we have to break the function here, and then we also have to break the function here as well. Yes, so we will have to do either of this. So it's either email cannot be empty and password cannot be empty, and then but password is not, email is no longer empty. So why is it still checking? Okay, so we can now do an else here, right? And then this becomes empty, so we no longer show anything here. So this becomes empty. You know what, let's say something here. Let's say if error is empty, right? If error is empty, this should automatically be hidden, right? We should automatically hide it. So in a case where there was an error initially and then there's no error again, we want to hide it completely. So we're also going to add an else case here, and then we're going to show error show login error empty. And then if we initially had an error, an email error, and then we enter it again, why is it not hidden? Why is it not hidden? Let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we submit. Something is wrong. This error is not clearing up. It's supposed to clear up. Okay, let's take away the return statement and see. So error is empty. You know what, let's just leave all of this. This is like not necessary. This is just making the whole code bloated. Instead of going this route, let's say if and only if email value dot length, email value and password value. So if and only when we have email value and password value, that is when this should run, right? Else this should not run. Or another way to see it, yes, let's do it like this. So else this is not going to run. So if we do this, this is not going to run. If we enter this, this is not going to run. If we enter, password cannot be empty. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then if we enter this, loading, so we get an error. So now first of all, we need to import from firebase config, we need to import map errors. Then next, we need to find a way to initial. So if error, right, let's do this. If error, this works. Else, right, if error, else we are going to say remove this error, and error.text content automatically becomes empty. So we are going to add hidden. Okay, this is the mistake we're doing. We're not switching it from remove to add, my bad. So but now we are doing that now. So if we should submit and then we do this, password cannot be empty. You know what, it's going to keep multiplying. It's going to keep multiplying. You know what we are going to do? What we are going to do is that we are going to check again, right? Else show error login, this should be empty, and then else as well, this should also be empty, right? So if we do this now, we enter. No, why is it happening multiple times? If error, so let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6, error text is not defined, show login error. Okay, this is supposed to be outside of this so that we can clear the error. Let's see. Joshua@gmail.com 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 submit. Okay, so something went wrong. Cannot set properties of undefined 100. So this is undefined. Login button, supposed to be login button. Let's console log what we get here for our error message. Let's see what exactly we're getting for our error message. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Something went wrong. 94 error. 97. This is not showing us anything on line 97. No. Error dot message. Okay, you know what, let's console log clg error code, and let's also console log error, right? Let's see where the problem is coming from exactly, so we know how to, I mean, there's a whole lot to handle here now. And so 96, we have error code and error. So error code and error, right? So I think this is the error code. Let's console log just error code alone and see. This is going to be a whole lot of work, but let's see how far we can cover. Error code. Okay, so 96. So this is the right auth invalid credentials. So let's go back to our mapper and do this instead. So let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 submit. Something went wrong still. Why? Let's console log. What error are we sending here? Okay, we're not sending the right error. Yes, we're not sending the right error. So instead of error message, right, we should be sending error. We should be sending error code. This is what we should be sending. We should be sending error code, and then this should fix it. And then if we log in, invalid credentials. So now you see we get invalid credentials. So our login is working properly now. Let's go to sign up. So for sign up, we've already done like the bulk of the hard work. So all we just need to do is to replicate what we already have for login into sign up, and then we just update them. So we just come here and then we update everything for sign up. So instead of login email, this will be sign up email, and this will be sign up password, and then this will be email value. Email cannot be empty, password cannot be empty. Basically like everything the same, except that we are now going to be calling create account. So this is create account, that is we're going to be calling. So now let's switch to sign up, and then we're going to pass in my email, Joshua@gmail.com. Then we're going to pass in my password 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So submit, and the moment we submitted, we did not console log the user, but the user was registered immediately. If we check the authentication, you should now see that we have one user. Okay, we don't have a user. Why? Let's check what happened, what went wrong. So let's console log the error, and let's also console log the user credentials and see what happened. So sign up 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we sign up. Okay, I think something is wrong. Okay, this is supposed to be sign up form, not sign up email. We made the same mistake that we did on, so we have to come here 1 2 3 4 5 6 and then submit. Canonical properties of null reading value. We also made the same mistake here. Sign up email, sign up email, sign up email, sign up password. Let's check what we have on our auth.html page. So sign up email, sign up password, right? Okay, so let's save this, and then so let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 and then let's go loading. So okay, no, this is for login. Now let's go to sign up 1 2 3 4 5 6 and then let's submit. Canonical properties 71, line 71. What's happening on line 71? Password value, sign up password. Okay, so sign up password is not getting the correct form, so sign up password, yes, we didn't spell it correctly. So let's switch to sign up again, and then 1 2 3 4 5 6 and then let's submit this. Okay, so we got firebase error email. Okay, so we got a user already. Let's see. Yes, so we got a user already. Now this is the user. This user is signed in. The problem is we did not handle. So what happens when the user is signed up? Now at this point where the user is signed up, we now want to so we also need to update the sign up form to, so on the show login error we want to use show sign up error, and then we want to, instead of login error, this is going to be sign up error. Then also for the login button, let's go down and then let's search for login button. So on the login, on the sign up form, instead of login button, it's going to be sign up button, and then the next place we use this on the login form, sign up form, create account. So the way we have this here, we're also going to have this here, sign up button dot text. Is this text content? Yes, text content equal to submit. So this is going to be submit, and then we're also going to have we're also going to have this here as well, equal to submit, right? So now when we get a user, right, we want to move the user from location.href. We want to move the user to the index.html page. Why? Because that user is automatically signed in already. So that's the same thing we also want to do on the index page, and we are going to be moving the user to the index page and storing the user's data. So if you check here now, you should now see that we have so on login now, if we try to log in this user, so we are routed back to the login page. So the user has logged in successfully. Now what we want to do is that we want to store the user's data, right? So let's go back to the auth, and then on the auth now, when we click on submit, you see, okay, so the reason why that is cleaning away is because we are like refreshing the page. So let's say replace, let's use replace. I think replace should not completely wipe out the data. So if we say submit, yes, cannot assign to read only property replace of Okay, but okay, replace is not working, but this is the user object that we have. So we now have display name, we have email verified, we have is anonymous false, we have phone number, we have photo URL. Now another thing we can also do is that on the sign up we can also get the user's data and register the user. So we can collect his first name, last name, and like other details, and also update the user object. So if we check on the firebase method, you see we have use a custom auth system. So this custom auth system is a way of so this point now we okay, no, this is like for custom auth token. I'm trying to look for a way we can, okay, yes, manage users. So to manage users we can actually update so now there's the on-auth state change. The on-auth state change helps us to manage the state of a user. Is the user logged in, is the user logged out, and all of that. So we can use this as our global state management for auth. Right now we can use this to track when, like you can see here, if the user is signed in, we can there are a lot of properties we can fetch for this user. Now if the user is signed out, we can automatically sign out the user. Then we also have the user properties like display name, we have email verified, and I'm trying to see how we can, so we can also update a user's profile, right? So at this point of at the point of sign up, we can also collect the user's data like his first name, his last name, his display name, because if you look at what we have here, you can see that we have phone number, we have display name, right? And then we have let me see, we have a few other data about the user. So what we can do is that on the sign up form we can just quickly add display name on the sign up form to, and then so auth, right? So this is sign up, so we can just quickly add a display name here, and then we can say sign up name, and then we can say full name, and then we add name, and then we say sign up name, and then we say enter your name, and then on the JavaScript form where we collect sign up password, we also collect sign up name, and then we say sign up name, because it's very important we have the user's name on the platform. So at this point at the point where we create the user's account, we can now call this update user's profile method. Now we can now call the update profile from the firebase auth, right? Update profile, and then just like we did it here where we updated the profile, we can also do the same thing as well. Now we can also come here and then send user verification email, then we can, so these are some of the methods we can use. We can delete a user, we can re-authenticate a user. So but for now, for this, what we just want to do is that on successful creator, when the user's account is successfully created, before we move the user to the index page, we want to update the user's profile. So we don't need the profile URL, we just need the name. So we are going to say sign up name, so we're just going to attach the user sign up name. So this auth, right, this auth method here, if you look at it, to update the user's profile, it's coming from the get auth that we have here, right? So automatically the current user is going to be attached on this auth object, and we can just pass in the current user here and update the user's profile. So here, when the user's profile, so we want to only navigate and clear out the submit button only if the user's profile is updated. If there is an error again, we want to, so another thing we need to do is that we need to update this. So let's just copy this whole flow. So let's copy this whole flow and then let's bring it here. So this should now be show sign up error, and then let's also add this here as well. Show sign up error message. Is it error message? I think it's error code that we use, right? I think we used error code. Okay, yes, error code, and then we get the sign up error. Okay, yes, perfect. So that works. So that works perfectly fine. Yes. And then if we get, so these are like 2 levels of error. So we can either get an error at the point where we are creating the user's account, or we get an error at the point where we are updating the user's profile. So let's try this again for a new account. So let's try to sign up a new user now, and then so this form feels off. Something is off about this form. So this should be empty of 5, not empty of 10. So let's go back to sign up, and then let's say we want to enter Joshua, and let's say in edujosh@yopmail.com 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then we click on submit. So something went wrong. Auth invalid value, display name, starting an object on a scalar field. Okay, so this, oh my bad. So we were supposed to pass in sign up name dot value, right? Not sign up name. By the way, let's check out what sign up name is. This is supposed to be sign up name. So we're also supposed to add an error. We're also supposed to say if so here we're also supposed to fetch const sign up name value, so that we can also validate so if name value equal to empty, right, we want to also do like, so this should be show sign up error, show sign up error. So this should be name cannot be empty, else show sign up error, right? So we want to also validate the user's name, and then at this point of creating the account, what we are passing is the value, right? So the problem we had here was that we were trying to pass. So if you come here now, you should see that we already have 2 users. So we can delete the second user, delete in a Josh. Let's also delete this first user as well. Let's delete the account. So we are going to come back here and create a new user using Joshua, and then we're going to say in a josh@yopmail.com, and then we're going to submit. So yes, so you see the user's account was created successfully and the user was logged into the platform, so the name was added. Now if you come to the manage use, if you come to our Firebase and you refresh, we should be able to now see this user. So the next thing we want to do is that when we go to our home page, remember we now said we have the current user method. So on the home page, right, we can now so we are done with this. So on the main.js, we can now fetch this main user. So we can do this and fetch the main user that we have logged into the system. So user provider, so if user is not equal to null, we can now log in the user, and then on the main page we can see the user that is logged in. No Firebase app has been created. Okay, so we just want to get, so we want to use auth. No, So we want to import, so we already have the auth in the firebase method, firebase config. So we already have the auth object, right? Why is this showing an error? Let's see. How did we import it here? We imported it using, okay, from. We did not add the from. So if we do this now and we go back to our home page and refresh, if user is not equal to null, user, let's see, console log user null. This user is null. Why is this user null? I thought we have, okay, no, we're not going to use this. This is not what we are going to use. We are going to use the on auth state change, right? Let's use the on auth state change method instead. So this is where we get the user that we want to work with on auth state change. This is where we get the logged in user that is signed into the platform, and then when we come here, the request module does not provide a name on auth state changed. No, on auth state change is supposed to come from firebase auth on auth state changed. Then we come back here, it has already been declared. An auth state change has already been declared. Okay, so we take this out, and then we still do not get any user. Okay, so let's console log the user. Okay, so now you can now see we now have this user that is logged in, Joshua josh@yahoo.com. So what we can now do is that we can now replace this user name with the user that is logged in at this point. So to do that, we can now fetch, so we can now come here, const, and say user profile name equal to so we can now go to our index.html and so yes, so we are going to import. So now we are going to, this is where we are going to now manage this whole, this whole list, right? Now here we are going to add an ID here, and then we're going to call this ID is logged. We're going to call this ID auth, right? We're going to call this ID user profile, right? Yes, let's call this user profile. So when the user is logged in, we're going to hide this. When the user is not logged in, we're going to show it. Then here, when the user is logged in, we're going to get the user's name, right? And display the user's name here instead of displaying this. So let's go to our main.js to do that. So let's see where our main.js is. Main.js. So yes, so if we have a user logged in, right, we don't want this. So if we will have a user logged in, user profile name equal to document dot query selector, and then we are going to pass in what did we define it as again? Let's go back to our index.js. We are going to, so we have auth and user profile, right? Auth and user profile. So let's go back to the main page. So we have user profile, and then we have auth state, right? Then we have auth, right? So if a user is logged in, auth state dot class list or add is going to be hidden, right? It's going to be hidden, and then we are going to auth state dot class list dot add dot remove class list dot remove. We're going to remove block, right? So we're going to remove the block. and we're going to invert this here. It's going to be block and it's going to be hidden. So if you come here, so you see, because the user is logged in, that automatically is gone. And then for the user profile, we are going to user profile dot so the user profile, the thing about the user profile is, you know what, let's take out the anchor tag, because this is not linking anywhere. So this is not linking anywhere, so the user profile is going to be hidden. So main.js user profile dot text content equal to user dot display name. I think that is it. What do we have here? Cannot read properties of undefined. 12. Remove block. Okay, this is auth state, not auth. Auth state, not auth. Joshua, right? So we now have Joshua. So you see the username now shows here. And so what we can now do, so instead of hiding, what we can do is, instead of hiding, we can just make the text contents equal to logout, right? And then the text contents here equal to login, right? And yes, so this makes more sense. So logout and login. So when the text content is logout, the next thing we want to do is that we are going to add a bubbling event. We're going to say auth state to add event listener on click, and then we are going to listen to the event. This is going to be an arrow function, and then we're going to say if e.targets the value is, if e.targets the value okay, so before we do this, let's console log e.targets, right, and see what this gives to us. So when we click on it, you see it gives us logout. Let's now add dot value and see what it gives to us. So it's 0. Okay, so we cannot exactly get, so we can say text content, right? Text content logout. So we can say if the text content is equal to logout, right? So we can now run our logic here. So this is where we now handle the logout. So at this point now, we will now define a method called logout, right? And then we can come to our method here, get the currently signed in user. How do we manage how do we get the user to log out? No user is signed in. Get user's profile, set user's email, set user's password, set delete a user, re-authenticate a user. So how do we log a user out? Sign in users, auth state persistence. So there's actually a lot we can actually do with this. Like there's so much we can do with this. Modify the auth overall persistence. There should be a way to log. Okay, so let's just search. Let's search how to log out an authenticated user. Using password based accounts. So authenticate with fire using password no, this is Unity. I want it on the web. Password authentication. So create password based account, sign in user with email address, validating a password on the client. Next step, sign out. Okay, so this is the sign out method. So we have a sign out method, and then we're going to call the sign out method. So to call the sign out method, we just need to do this. So on the logout, we're going to say sign out, and then we already have auth. So like when the sign out is successful, so when sign out is successful, when sign out is successful, we'll come back later here. We will come back later here. So the reason why I'm even saying we'll come back later here is because this already handles what happens when the user auth state changes. So we may not necessarily need to listen to anything here. So but here we can just call logout, and this automatically handles it. So if we come here and then we click on logout, so automatically the user is logged out and Joshua is still here. okay, so when we log out the user, this should also clear the user's display name, and user profile name dot class list dot add should now become hidden. So it should automatically be hidden, and user profile your class list or remove block. So let's try this again. So manage should also not show. Let's log in. Something is wrong. Okay, so login. Okay, so now let's see what happens now. What's happening on our index page? Auth pages / auth. Okay, so now we are so when the user is logged out on the main.js, right? When the user is logged out, auth states. So now another thing we also want to do is that if the e.target.text content is equal to login, let's route the user to location.href. Let's take the user to the login page. So this is going to be pages / login, and then if we do this, so it's not taking. Okay, so we're not routing properly. So if we go here now, something is happening, something wrong is happening. We are not routing properly. Why are we not routing properly? Okay, it's auth.html, not login. auth.html. So if we go back again and then we click on it, this should take us to. Why are we not getting? Okay, yes, perfect. So we are now on auth.html, and then if we try logging in again in a josh@yopmail.com, submit, cannot. Okay, so we need to fix this auth.js. So login should take us to. Login should not use replace, it should use href. Okay, so this is in a josh@yopmail, and then we are in. So perfect. So this works perfectly well. Everything is now fully routed. So we've handled authentication. In the next video, we are going to look at how we can now handle videos and something else. So thank you for joining me today. I believe you learned something. See you in the next video. Bye.